This is called Sick Passenger. The man was clearly Wall Street. Sharp suit, Italian or French, something old world and superior, tailored within an inch of its life. Blonde hair pushed back, effortless, briefcase dangling from clean, manicured hands. Well, clean to the untrained eye. To Elliot, the Wall Street man's hands were stained with the blood of a million eyes gouged out during hostile takeovers. Standing across from Elliot on the train at rush hour, the Wall Street man stood out from the other lawyers, business types, money makers. He stood out from the ladies in self-conscious suits and hedge fund fags in their high-heeled boots. The Wall Street man stood out because he was predatory. He tasted human flesh. The blood still hung on the corners of his mouth, and now he trained in on the sinewy, strange form of Elliot across the crowded car, like a wolf eyeing a lamb that had ventured away from the flock. He sneered and licked his teeth, and even though Elliot could barely see straight through the fog of his half-sleep, the Wall Street man made him hard. "Why do you always go for men like that?" Shavella had asked Elliot once at the bar a long time ago. She had placed a glass in front of him and clasped her hands expectantly, in her best imitation of every therapist she'd ever seen on television. "I don't go after them," Elliot said. "They come after me." Shavella batted her eyelashes so wildly they started a typhoon in Japan. "That is some stick to high heaven bullshit. You know men like that are never looking for love, don't you?" Elliot shrugged. "They know how to fuck me the way I like it." "Oh, honey, you ought to make love sometime. Don't fuck." "What's the difference?" "You can feel the difference, Mary. You little ones, you never get it. Just because you're a faggot doesn't mean you don't have the choice." "Whatever." Shavella chuckled deep and hairy. "Whatever." She stepped back, rising to full height like a bear on two legs, tossing her hip and letting the pink fringe of her dress dance with indignation. "Fine, don't listen to me. Cute little things like you think you can't afford respect for your elders. Go on, play these games with these motherfuckers, be the neighborhood pussy boy, letting some coked-up brokers build model ships in your ass if that's what you really want. But someday you'll wake up, you'll look around, and it won't be pretty. Someday." "You listening to me?" Shavella said. She snapped her fingers as he lay his head down on the bar. When had that been? Elliot couldn't remember anymore. Was it last week? Last year? To him, the days seemed to slide in and out of each other like lovers. His head felt heavier than usual, filled with sand. He tried to think straight, but every time his mind touched the edges of clarity, his neck would collapse, dropping his head conspicuously against the door of the train. The Wall Street man smirked and stuck out a forked tongue. Two old women, hideous beaked hags, shook their heads at him and chirped to each other, feathers ruffled, eyes darting with bird-like disgust. Stupid hags, none of your business, Elliot thought. Stupid shit Shavella, thinking she knew him. Why the fuck does she think he hung out in that bar in the first place? Nobody went there to be good. Dummy ancient drag queen trying to counsel the fag like she was Oprah. She never helped him. She was always taking the drinks the men left for him. Always shooing away the scariest looking ones like she was doing him a favor. She was just jealous. That was why she banned him from the bar, that's right. He was banned, grabbed by the neck and thrown out by an ugly man in a dress, but he couldn't for the life of him remember how long it had been since that had happened. The Wall Street man was taking in every inch of Elliot, trying to decide which part to consume first. Elliot began his careful, sleepy performance. First, he slid his hand unconsciously down his jeans, playing with the waistband to keep his hand busy, ever so slightly pulling it downwards. He pretended to read the advertisements above his head, even though his eyes couldn't focus on the words. At the same time, his fingers twirled the black pubic hair that he kept wild and long and innocent. The hag squawked at him, but he ignored them. After a few moments, he looked back at the Wall Street man, who smiled at Elliot with teeth filed into points. With intentional self-consciousness, Elliot pulled his hand out of his jeans. He pulled his jacket tighter around his body. He stole glances as if he couldn't help it. He shook as if in panic. He looked around the car as if hoping someone would come to his rescue, but also not really wanting it because he couldn't stop looking at the man, licking his lips. Dizzy, he swayed, only half faking it, and held the shoulder of the man next to him to steady himself. "Sorry," he apologized, and his voice went high and angelic. "If he did it right, He looked ripe to be taken advantage of. That's what they wanted. A courtship of predator and prey, and Elliot knew his part backwards and forwards. He didn't completely understand why he wanted it like this. He had been a different person before the pills, before discovering what he could do at night that no one else could. But some part of him knew he had always been into this game. When he was 15 years old, Elliot had developed a bad case of insomnia. Days and days alert in bed, feeling the aging rape of years that came from no sleep, he complained to his mother incessantly until she finally shoved a little pill into his hand. "That'll knock you out," she had said. Then, with a flourish that would have made Chavella green, his mother wrapped the smoky line of her cigarette around Elliot like a lasso, stopping him before he could bound off to his bedroom. "If you get addicted to those things," she said, "I'll cut your balls off. So don't let me catch you looking for any more." Elliot thought the pill hadn't worked until he tried to get up again and realized he couldn't. He wasn't paralyzed, not really. He was asleep. His body was, at least. His mind kept going, aware of everything happening to him, aware of his heart rate creeping and his nervous system slowing to a gentle hum, the floating, sweet, frothy feeling you get while drowning. But more than anything, and for the first time, Elliot felt empty. The emptiness stretched from his throat through his chest and down to his stomach. It seemed larger than him, impossibly large, and screaming to be filled, like an ancient canyon that stares up forever, demanding to swallow the sky. He thought to get up, to run to the kitchen, to stuff himself full of everything he could to dull the knives of his emptiness, but no matter how much he demanded it of his body, he could not move. He lay, helpless, completely aware, being crushed under the vacuum of nighttime. When his body woke from the coma, the emptiness was gone, but so was his insomnia. Fully rested, he felt like himself again, only now more than himself. For a time, Elliot shrugged off his newfound ability. To him, it seemed a little like being able to whistle or to stick your whole fist in your mouth. Sure, he could have fun with it. He would fall into a waking sleep with the help of one of his mother's pills to eavesdrop on secret conversations, friends or lovers who thought he couldn't hear them and would say what they really thought. He could even play tapes on his tape recorder overnight and expedite his studying during school. His grades were pretty good. His body always obeyed the pills, his arms and legs and stomach and heart faithful dogs laying down and playing dead, while his mind swirled bright and busy. But beyond the few strange perks, it seemed a largely useless talent. And the emptiness remained, a mystery, a bother, but unchanging. Until the bar, that night, ages ago now. He wasn't sure how he'd found himself there. Now, thinking back on it, some details had fallen into the rough sea of his overslept mind. The man had tried speaking to him first. Ugly and fat, he begged Elliot with his eyes and his casual, shaky conversation, desperate from time and loneliness. Elliot couldn't help but make faces and turn away. The man didn't leave, but went quiet, hanging over his drink, balled up into a brooding rage that made the bar hum.